The Boston Red Sox, with a victory tonight, they can move back into first place in the American League East.
Well, it's been a different Red Sox team. You know, normally they're a good hitting ball club, but without Dwight Evans, with Mike Greenwell struggling offensively, and with Wade Boggs struggling, if you want to call 300 a struggling average, they have not been the offensive team that they've been in the past, but they've played very good defense, and they've also had very good pitching so far.
Now, the Kansas City Royals, this was a ball club expected to contend with Oakland for first place in the American League West, and of course they've been a major disappointment. But Kansas City's been coming on lately.
Well, they've played well since the All-Star break, and they were starting to do real well with Bo Jackson in the lineup, so he went down. But they still have a hot George Brett, and George Brett can carry this ball club for a couple of weeks, hopefully until Bo Jackson gets back.
Now, Brett has been hitting real well, just like the George Brett of old, and we think he's going to put on a show here tonight. But for the Royals, maybe third place is in their sights, but nothing beyond that. For the Red Sox, a pennant race in New England. To stay a contender in 1990, in Boston, they're looking for more Morgan's magic. There's a fiery emotion on this Boston Red Sox team. Additions like Tony Pena and Tom Brunansky have given the Sox the look of a contender. But the Red Sox strength this year has not been in its bats. It's been on the mound, where Roger Clemens is having another superb season. And Mike Boddicker has been a very dependable #2 man. But since the All-Star break, Morgan's Red Sox have been struggling. Last weekend at Fenway, they dropped 3 of 4 to the Royals. Lately, the Sox offense has been making the wrong kind of history.
They'll get 2 and triple play.
Meanwhile, Kansas City manager John Wathan is watching in dismay as his club, expected to battle Oakland for first place, battles instead to get out of last place. The high-salaried pitching staff has been a royal disappointment. Now staff ace Brett Saberhagen is on the shelf. But the Royals' big guns, dormant in the first half, have come to life. George Brett is back in the groove after his slowest start ever. And Brett sees the future of this Royals squad, and it wears number 16. The legend of Bo grows each day. He can't do it all.
Bo on the charge. Bo is there.
Last Tuesday, Bo hit 3 home runs in 3 at-bats against the Yankees, but didn't get a chance for the record books as he injured his shoulder on this play. And we won't see him tonight. It's the Red Sox and the red-hot Royals right after Dave Marish and Baseball Tonight. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. The Kansas City Royals hosting the Boston Red Sox next. This is Royal Stadium in Kansas City. Tonight, ESPN Sunday Night Baseball featuring the Boston Red Sox and the Kansas City Royals. Earlier today, the Toronto Blue Jays were beaten by the Oakland Athletics, and so Boston, with a victory tonight, will regain first place in the American League East. Hello, everyone. John Miller and Joe Morgan. We heard there was a pennant race in town, so we hurried right over. And sure enough, there is the Boston Red Sox with that chance to move into first place. Unfortunately, the hometown team, the Royals, not involved in a pennant race. Very unusual for the Royals. And, Joe, they've had so many problems.
Well, John, the easy way out is to blame everything on Mark Davis, as a lot of people have done. But to be honest about it, Mark Davis has nothing to do with the Kansas City Royals' demise this year. He wasn't here last year, and they finished second. So if they didn't get anything from him, they still should have been a good ball club. But they've been inconsistent as far as pitching is concerned and hitting. They've had good games both ways, but they have not had any consistency, and that's the problem with the Royals.
Now, the Boston Red Sox have not had much consistency lately. They've lost 11 of their last 15 ball games. The Red Sox have not done it the way you would expect the Red Sox to do it either. Even when they were doing it, they're not hitting home runs.
Well, that's true, but the Boston Red Sox are really lucky, John, to be in first place, simply because the Toronto Blue Jays are a better ball club. But but they haven't been playing very well, so that's given Boston a chance. But I think the Boston Red Sox have one plus in their favor right now. That's Mike Greenwell. He's starting to swing the bat very well, and along with Ellis Burks, they're driving in runs. If they get Dwight Evans back and Wade Boggs raises his average a little more, I think you'll see a very fine race in the East.
All right, so the Red Sox with first place at stake tonight at Royal Stadium, a ball club where they have never played well, including this weekend. They've lost 2 out of 3 here this weekend already. It'll be Storm Davis, the veteran right-hander, going for the Royals. Tom Bolton going for Boston. At Royal Stadium in Kansas City, just about ready to get started here. Boston Red Sox coming up against Storm Davis. Here's the Sears Die-Hard starting lineup for Boston. It'll be Wade Boggs leading off. He's the designated hitter. Jody Reed is at shortstop, usually the second baseman. Rookie Tim Naring is at third base. Tom Brunansky hits cleanup in right field. Carlos Quintana is at first base, having a fine rookie season. Mike Greenwell is in left field, batting sixth. Tony Pena is the catcher. In center field, Kevin Romine. Ellis Burks is hurting right now. And Marty Barrett getting a rare start at second base.
And the defense for the Kansas City Royals has Pat Tabler in right. Jim Eisenreich is the center fielder. Bill Pecota is in the left field. Kevin Seitzer at third. Steve Jeltz is the shortstop. Frank White is the second baseman. George Brett will be at first base. Mike McFarland will do the catching. And on the mound, right-hander Storm Davis.
And Storm, the former member of the Oakland Athletics, who was a big free agent after last season. He was a 19-game winner last season, and he's had problems this year, problems getting victories and problems staying healthy. Wade Boggs looks at a strike, and it is 0-1. Boggs at 3-0-1. He went 0 for 5 last night and shaved off his beard. He had been sporting a full beard. That's foul down the left field line. Strike 2.
I asked him before the ball game, I said, Wade, why'd you shave your beard? He said, I went 0 for 5. I said, he said he couldn't even manufacture a walk last night. He said he wasn't swinging the bat well, and he tried to get a walk. They wouldn't even walk him.
That beard had run out of hits. The fourth ball is too low. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Now Storm with a record of 3-6. Last year 19-7. The year before 16-7. Quite a fall off. The 1-2 pitch on the way. It's an easy play for Pecota, the left fielder. 1 down, and Boggs continues with the offer. This has never been a good ballpark for him, and it's never been a good ballpark for the Red Sox.
Well, Boggs says to me before the ball game, he said, look, I've been hitting the ball well, but I've been hitting it right at people. And he hit that ball pretty well there, but the one thing that Wade Boggs normally does is he gets the ball on a lower trajectory. He doesn't hit a lot of fly balls. He hits a line drive or a ground ball.
Jody Reed, you look at that, 307 batting average. He also has 31 doubles. He leads the American League in that category, but like so many of the Red Sox hitters, a lot of that has to do with Fenway. 22 of those doubles at Fenway Park. And that's a ball, 1-1. We saw Storm earlier this year in New York, and he pitched a heck of a game. Bullpen gave it up for him, however. He did not get the win. He only gave up 1 hit the whole game.
That was a game where Don Mattingly hit the dramatic 9th inning home run to tie the ball game. The Royals end up winning it in the 10th inning, but Storm Davis didn't get anything, didn't get a victory for his efforts that night. Pitched very well.
He went 7 1/3, gave up just 1 hit. That's fouled and out of play. 2-2 the count. Said Jody Reed leads the league in doubles. There you get a look. 32 doubles now. Puckett with 28. Sheffield 26. There's Boggs and George Brett down there. George has been hitting a lot of doubles lately. He's been getting a lot of hits of just about every variety lately. 3-2 now to Jody Reed. Well, first place is at stake, and the Red Sox, despite stumbling lately, it's been a fine season for them up till now. Come right back toward us and into the upper deck. 3-2 the count to Jody Reed.
I thought you made a very good point about the Royals. They can finish as high as 3rd if they get hot. I think it's unrealistic to think that they could catch the Oakland Athletics and the Chicago White Sox, but I think they can catch everyone else in the division.
That's down the left field line, and the doubles leader is going to add to his total. Pecota having to play that one as it rolls along the wall down there. As the night goes along, we'll talk about that wall in the corner. In fact, in both corners, because it's treacherous down there.
Number 11, the third base.
Well, the count was 3-2, so they had to go in. Storm had to come in with the fastball, and Pacoda sat on the fastball and he pulled it into the corner. You see, it's a fastball right about the middle of the plate. And it bounces back, and Pacoda plays it very well.
Here now is Tim Nehring, and this is a young fellow that Joe Morgan, the manager of the Red Sox, and I have a feeling Joe Morgan.
Yeah, we're going to make that mistake tonight.
Joe Morgan, the Hall of Famer. I think they both either love this guy or are going to love him.
Yeah, we both like him. I think he's going to be a good player. He's from the Cincinnati area, and Joe Morgan, the manager, says that he's going to be a real good player because he's a tough kid. He's mentally tough, and that's what it takes. You see his average at Pawtucket.
15 home runs down there, mostly as a shortstop, and he's been playing shortstop here as well. The changeup from Storm, and the count is 1-2 strikes. He is over at third base tonight because manager Joe Morgan wants to give him, or give Wade Boggs rather, a little time off, particularly on this turf here. 1-2 to Nehring. This is Seitzer over to Brett, out number 2. Nehring earlier this week in a 1-0 ball game last Tuesday drove in the only run in only his second major league start. His first start last Monday at Fenway, 0 for 4, made an error, booted another would-be double play ball. Couldn't have been worse, but then the next night he drives in the only run, hit a home run the next night, and they already like what they've seen of Nehring. Here's Brunansky, strike 1.
When you say he struck out, he went 0 for 4, made an error, didn't do this, do that, sounds like a typical rookie game to me, especially for a guy that's called up in the middle of the season.
That one's in the dirt, knocked down by McFarland. 1 ball, 1 strike. No score, 2 down, runner at second. Well, in Boston, of course, so they got a great and long baseball tradition. And the fans there and the media there, of course, aware of that too. They immediately went back to 1974, and Rick Burleson had made 3 errors in his rookie game, his first game. Well, Brunansky's gone, and a broken bat bouncer to third. 1 hit for Boston, 1 left. We're going to get a look at the Royals coming up when we return to Kansas City. Back at Royal Stadium on a beautiful night. John Miller, Joe Morgan with you. As the Royals come to bat, let's take a look at the Sears diehard starting lineup for the hometown Kansas City Royals. Kevin Seitzer leads off at third base. Bill Pacoda in left field. Gerald Perry, the designated hitter. George Brett is at first base, batting cleanup. Pat Tabler is in right field. Jim Eisenreich in center field, batting 6th. Mike McFarland is the catcher. Got the game-winning hit last night here. Veteran Frank White at second base. And at shortstop hitting 9th is Steve Jones.
And the Red Sox defensively will have Tom Brunansky in right field. Kevin Romine will play center in place of Ellis Burks. Mike Greenwell is in left. Tim Nehring is at third. Jody Reed is the shortstop. Marty Barrett, veteran, is at second base. Carlos Quintana is at first base. Behind the plate is Tony Pena. On the mound, big left-hander Tom Bolton.
And Bolton making a start last Tuesday. The Red Sox needed a lift, and he certainly gave it to them, beating the heavy-hitting Minnesota Twins at Fenway 1-0.
And he's got a perfect strikeout to base on balls ratio. 14 strikeouts to 7 base on balls. You look for a 2-to-1 ratio there, and you always have to watch that carefully on left-handed pitchers. If a left-hander can throw strikes in the major leagues, he usually is going to be successful.
So here is Bolton, 28 years of age, out of Nashville, Tennessee, with his first pitch to Kevin Seitzer, and there is ball 1. Seitzer, 292. Been a pretty good leadoff man for the Royals the last couple of years, although he does not often steal bases. He gets on a lot.
He and George Brett pulled a big joke prank on me today. Brett came up to me and said, you know, Seitzer's always kind of admired you. He's been struggling a little bit. He wants you to watch his batting practice and, you know, maybe give him a couple of tips.
There's the 2-0 delivery for a strike.
So I kind of fell for it. So I go to the cage, and when Seitzer gets in there to hit, and all of a sudden he starts flapping his arm like a chicken. And Brett pat me on the back and said, yeah, we got you.
Here's the 2-1 delivery. Foul off to the right and back out of play. 2-2. Seitzer gets very deep in the batter's box. And in fact, as the back line of the batter's box is obliterated, he might be out of the batter's box if the line was still there. The 2-2 pitch. Foul. Why would a guy do that, Joe?
Well, a lot of guys want to get as long a look at the ball as they possibly can. So obviously the further you get away from the pitcher, the longer time you have, to see the ball. So he is definitely out of the batter's box. But once you erase the line, it's customary that you can sneak a few more inches back there, and he has about 4 inches.
Quintana wide of the line from his knees to Bolton, who drops the ball. Seitzer is safe.
Quintana goes over, gets the ball, he stays on his knees, he actually makes a throw. He's a little bit behind the pitcher, but he comes up with it and then he drops it. So it's really probably going to be an error on the pitcher. See, he makes the catch right there. Well, he really doesn't hold it at all. Actually, the first baseman threw the ball behind him, so tough play. But they give the error to the pitcher.
E1 error to Tom Bolton. Seitzer is aboard. And here is Bill Pecota, the right-handed hitting left fielder. Bo Jackson is on the disabled list for the Royals. And there's a sinker for ball 1 from Bolton. Seitzer, the runner over at first base, has stolen only 4 bases this year.
Seitzer dug a hole deep in the batter's box, actually out of the batter's box. Pecota stepped in the same spot.
Well, the hole's already dug.
Right.
It's convenient. Seitzer back to first. Pecota, what Peter Gammons dubbed a role player. Play all over the field. He's in left field tonight. In a recent radio interview in Kansas City, he was told, "Hey, Bill, you do little things well." And he said, "I have to. I can't do big things well." That's foul and out of play. 1 ball, 1 strike. In the first, no score in the game. Now, the Toronto Blue Jays were beaten today by Oakland 3-0 at the Coliseum. Mike Moore getting the victory over Jimmy Key.
There you see his right foot's in the same spot that was dug by Kevin Seitzer.
That's a grab there by Naring, and he gets the force out at second base. Naring, normally the shortstop, making a nice diving grab, playing in place of Boggs, and he gets the lead runner.
Number 17, the designated hitter, Gerald Perry.
Well, you put a shortstop at third base, and you get a lot of range out of him. A shortstop's used to roaming the whole infield, but here you see him. That's a step and a dive. He knocks it down, but from his knees he makes an accurate throw over to Barrett, and he forces Seitzer at second base. It's really a nice play because that ball was hit like a shot. He made 2 steps and a dive, and on AstroTurf that's about all you can do. You don't have time to run balls down. You have to take a couple of steps, and if you're not there, you're not going to get to it.
Here's Gerald Perry. Foul ball, out of play. Perry wore out the Red Sox last week in Fenway. Now, keep in mind, in a 4-game series at Fenway last weekend, Kansas City won 3 out of 4. And then this weekend, Kansas City has won 2 out of 3. So the Royals on an unusual role for them of being the spoiler. They've played their role all too well against Boston. A good jump there by Pecota, and he steals it. Pretty good throw by Pena, but Pecota was already there.
Pecota had stolen 4 out of 5, so now he's 5 out of 6. He gets an excellent jump on Bolton. Pena is a good throwing catcher, very accurate, and it's right on the money, but not in time to get Pecota.
So Pecota gets his 5th steal of the year in 6 tries. The Royals like to employ the running game. They've not been able to do it as much this year as they would like, and I guess when you're behind all the time and playing catch-up, that can put a crimp in your running game.
Well, when you think about the Kansas City Royals and their franchise history, you think of guys like Hal McRae, George Brett, Willie Wilson, Frank White. All these guys were very aggressive base runners. They fit this ballpark very well. They hit a ball in the gap and it was a triple. They hit it right at you in the outfield and it was a double. They always hustled well.
Now it's 2-1 to Gerald Perry. Now Tom Bolton from Nashville, Tennessee, and he said he was very uncomfortable about making the start last Tuesday. But then he said if you asked him after the game last Tuesday, he loves being a starter. That's what a 1-0 victory will do for a guy. Bolton is 28 years of age. He's a guy that maybe you'd kind of root for because he has persevered.
Right.
His professional career goes back 10 years, almost all of it as a minor leaguer. But he says every time he thinks about giving it up, he thinks, hey, if I give it up, I'll never make it to the big time. And the dream is still there. This is Marty Barrett. And he throws out Perry as Pecota takes third, and that's the second out.
You see Bill Pecota's lead. He gets a good jump. He doesn't have a very big lead, but he had a good jump. And the throw comes in right above the bag, but not in time.
Now George Brett. And George has lifted his average to 293, and he has been red hot, hitting .438 in the last 12 games. And you get a look at the numbers right there. Strike one. Bolton's got a pretty good curveball.
That was an excellent curveball right there to George Brett. I asked George before the ball game, I said, what's the difference between George Brett today and the George Brett I saw about 2 months ago? He said, Joe, I don't want to tell you. I don't know. He said, all I know is I'm seeing the ball better now, and I'm hitting it better. And you can see he was hitting 217, 286, and now 400 in July. So he is seeing the ball very well.
1 ball, 1 strike to Brett. No score. 2 down, runner at third base. Brett's nickname, Lou. And he passed Lou Gehrig the other day on the all-time list for doubles in a career. I asked him if that's why. He said no, he's had that nickname his whole life. His brother John, his older brother, gave him the nickname. And for about the last 10 years, all of his teammates called him Lou.
Well, maybe they knew something. Maybe his brother John knew something when he was growing up.
I said, was it because your brother John thought you reminded him of Lou Gehrig? He said, no, it's because as a kid I used to watch all the cartoons, the Looney Tunes. He called me a Looney Tune and he shortened it to Lou. It was interesting to me. All his teammates knew that. I never heard that about George Brett. Lou.
You know, one of the things about George, though, is that he really attacks the baseball, and he doesn't do it, you know, scientifically, so to speak. He says, I see the ball, now attack it, which is probably the best way to hit. You can overthink in this game.
That's right. You don't get much of a response when you say to George, why are you so hot right now?
Right, exactly.
Curveball misses. 3-2 to Brett. Tabler is on deck. Brett has hit 13 doubles in the last 3 weeks.
I think the only thing lacking in George Brett's offensive production this year is the home runs, and therefore his RBIs are down. He only has 4 home runs this season, but he's hitting over 290, so 293 to be exact.
That's foul. One of the great hitters in the game, and that really goes without saying. A .310 lifetime average, but you know, he has hit 300 for a season only once in the last 5 years.
Yeah, 1985 was the last time he hit. Well, he hit once, and since 1985 he's hit 300 only once.
Runner at third, 2 down. Toward the middle, but Barrett is there. And he throws out George Brett. They get Lou to end the inning. 1 error, 1 left at the end of 1 full. The Red Sox and the Royals are scoreless. Second inning at Kansas City, no score in the game. John Miller, Joe Morgan with you. Next Sunday we'll be at Shea Stadium in New York. We go into the National League pennant race as the Mets, red hot, will be facing the St. Louis Cardinals. There's ball 1 to Carlos Quintana. 305 with this big right-handed swinger. A rookie. Storm Davis throws him a called strike. 1 ball, 1 strike. Quintana followed by Greenwell and Pena.
Quintana has done very well because they signed Bill Buckner and gave him a look-see, and he was kind of an insurance policy for the Red Sox. But Quintana has done so well, they released Buckner, and he's continued to swing the bat well.
Seitzer to Brett. And Quintana is retired. 3 straight ground ball outs by the Red Sox to Seitzer. That brings up Mike Greenwell. And Greenwell has been hitting much better of late. He's hit a couple of home runs since the All-Star break. He's had a problem with his left foot and left ankle dating all the way back to near the All-Star break of last year. but he tried to play through it. He didn't tell anybody about it. And now he's got this contraption here, which is a new invention. He's trying it for the first time tonight. And he takes ball when he has not been able to push off on his back foot and has not been able to hit for power.
Well, he's been wearing an air splint. This is a new. He said this is something he's trying, as you mentioned, for the first time tonight. And in fact, Mickey Cobb, who is trainer with the Kansas City Royals, his brother was one of the inventors of this contraption, as you call it, and it gives support to the ankle area, and he can leave his weight on his back foot and drive off of it, whereas before he had to get off that back foot in order to generate some bat speed.
Doing a lot of front foot hitting, which is not the way to hit home runs. And Greenwell, now he took a cortisone shot Wednesday, which was his birthday. He said, it's quite a birthday. I went 0 for 4, and then after the game I went and got a shot of cortisone. But he says it's taken the pain away for the time being as he takes ball 4. And this brace, he likes this one better than the air splint. He's tried it out in batting practice, and it gives him a lot more support right around the ankle itself.
Well, he needs some support on his back. He took a forearm shiver there from George Brett.
And those guys, that's Greenwell's idol, George Brett.
George Brett's a lot of people's idol.
Greenwell grew up in Fort Myers in Florida, where the Royals for many years had their spring training camp. And he used to ride his bicycle over when the Royals were working out, and he'd climb a tree near the field and watch his idol. Now Brett's going to try and double them up over there. It's going to have to be a tag, and they did it. Tag applied by Jeltz, and the double play goes from 3 to 6. Not an easy one to turn. Brett to Jeltz, and down go the Red Sox. No score after 1.5. In Kansas City, the Red Sox and the Royals, no score here. And just in case the game isn't entertaining enough, the Chicken, the famous Chicken, has arrived at Royal Stadium to entertain the fans.
And he started off by kissing the umpire's foot and bowing in front of him, home plate umpire Tim Welke. And then he wouldn't shake his hand.
Here's Pat Tabler hitting .277. Veteran, played first base, the outfield. Used to play third base in the middle infield.
Played a little bit of second base as well. Shortstop. He's always been a fine hitter. He's never had an actual position that he could play day in and day out. But he's always been a very fine stick.
Bolton misses with a breaking ball, 2-0. Bolton, growing up in Nashville, said that he got his baseball mainly from television. He was a big fan of the Cincinnati Reds in the early to mid 70s, the Big Red Machine. And his idol was Don Gullett. He says as a kid he tried to emulate Don Gullett, tried to pitch like him. He says as he grew older he realized that wasn't possible. Don Gullett, he's had some physical problems.
Right. He's okay now, but I think the real thing about Don Gullett, he was one of the better pitchers in the National League when he was healthy. Had a lot of injuries as well as a player.
2-1 the count. Jody Reed to Quintana, and Tabler is out number 1. Let's go back to that game inning-ending double play in the first half of the inning.
Well, one of the toughest double plays to make is 3-6-3, so 3 to 6 is also tough. George Brett comes off, he makes this perfect. Now he throws the ball on the inside. That's keeping it away from the runner. And Steve Jeltz has to make the tag. There's no longer a force out once he touches first base. The runner doesn't have to go to second. But the throw is to the inside. Makes it look routine, but that's a pretty tough play normally.
Here's Jim Eisenreich. He was the Royals' most valuable player last year. And he's been doing his best hitting of this season right now. Bolton going to have to hurry, and he didn't get it. Base hit for Eisenreich.
I was talking to Randy Kutcher before the ball game, and he really likes Eisenreich, and he says if you delay with the ball too long, he will beat out the ground ball. People think he's not fast, but he hustles all the time. And Bolton had time, but he took a little extra time, and by the time he fired to first base, no chance.
Dale Ford right there to make the call. Veteran umpire. And here is Mike McFarland. He was the hero last night. He got some pretty good numbers there. 281.
Real good numbers. 33
RBIs, hitting low in the order. 1 out, 1 on, second inning. Ball 1, backhanded by Pena. McFarland hit a drive. The wind was blowing in last night, late last night, that had a long rain delay. It looked like it was going to be a home run, but the wind held it up, and Greenwell went back to the wall and jumped up, had it in his glove, and couldn't hold it. And he went for a double. The winning run scored on that play.
I don't think throwing over to first base is a big deal here, because Eisenreich has stolen 10 bases, but he's been caught 11 times. I don't think he'll be going against left-hander Tom Bolton.
And that's foul. 1 ball, 1 strike to McFarland. You hear the crowd reacting in the background. It may not fit the ball game, but the chicken all the while is entertaining, trying to put the whammy on Bolton there. Ted Giannoulis, right? The chicken. Curveball, a nice one in for a called strike 2. 1 ball, 2 strikes to McFarland. Frank White is on deck. You know, the Royals have been so down this year. It's been such a difficult year for them. Talking to George Brett, and he was astounded to realize that they were only 4 games back of 3rd place at the start of this day. Runner going. Strike 3 called, and safe at second is Eisenreich. McFarland caught looking as Eisenreich steals second.
Well, they tricked not only me, but they tricked the Red Sox, because he took off as soon as Bolton made his first move, and that's why you see Tony Pena upset. Right there, he takes off. So he has a good jump. Pena tries to make up for it, but not in time. Again, he's very accurate. You see Tony Pena, he makes strong, accurate throws. But if they let him get too big a lead at first base, there's nothing he can do about it.
Came in there with that hook slide, so as not to give the man covering much of a chance to tag him. Here's Frank White with a chance to drive home a run here. Strike 1. No score in the game. We're in the second. Frank White, he and George Brett back into the early 70s with this ball club. Willie Wilson came along in the mid to late 70s. Those 3 have been here all of those years. John Wathen, he was here with them, and now their manager. Brett very adamant about wanting to have a strong finish for himself and for this ball club. Thinks it's very important for them, but he says it's a totally new experience for him, Joe, coming to the ballpark and not having a pennant race. He says he's used to having that little queasy feeling in the pit of the stomach with the importance of each ball game as he's on his way to the park. And now he says at this late age of his career, he's having to learn differently.
You know, it's a strange situation, John. My first few years in the major leagues, I was with the Houston Astros. We were fighting to stay out of last place.
That's foul.
And then after that, when I was traded to Cincinnati for the next 15 years or whatever it was, I was in a pennant race. And you always have that excitement driving to the ballpark. I mean, there's a complete different feeling coming to the ballpark when you're in a pennant race. And when you're not in a pennant race, you have to gear yourself up once you get to the ballpark. But if you're in a pennant race, you're excited from the time you wake up in the morning until the time the game's over, until you start all over the next day. So that's why people are so excited about being in a pennant race.
A ball and 2 strikes to Frank White. 2 down, runner at second. Bolton will step off the rubber. Well,
and a good thing he did step off then, because Eisenreich was timing him, and he was just about to take off for third.
Herring throws out White, and that retires the side. So the infield hit by Eisenreich and a stolen base, but nothing more for Kansas City. We've played 2 full innings, and still we are scoreless. Miller and Joe Morgan back at Kansas City. No score in the top of the 3rd inning, and the Red Sox coming to bat. Now next Sunday we'll be in New York to watch the Mets, who lost today to Atlanta at home, against the Cardinals, who have had a terrible year, but they are streaking now, Joe. They won again today. They've won 4 in a row.
Well, the Cardinals are starting to play well, and maybe Red Schoendienst is just what they needed. He's a soft-spoken guy who has played the game very hard throughout his career, and a lot of times guys respond to that.
And one thing is for sure, those 2 ball clubs do not have a great deal of fondness for one another. There's the play by George Brett to retire Kevin Romine. And there is one away. Romine, the 8th place hitter for Boston, leading off. First ball swinging against Storm Davis, and he is retired. Now the veteran Marty Barrett will come up. No score in the game, 3rd inning. Barrett, a right-handed hitter, an integral part of Red Sox division championship since '86 and eventually a pennant, a trip to the World Series, and also a division champion in '88. But now he's the man left out most often.
Well, with the emergence of Jody Reed at second base, a guy with a lot of range, and he's played very well, there has not been a lot of playing time for Marty Barrett.
Strike one.
And Luis Rivera started off doing very well at shortstop, so that was the double play combination. And now they brought up Tim Naring, so it looks like Barrett is not going to get many at bats. But he's getting in the ball game tonight, but he is not going to get a lot of playing time, I don't believe, the rest of the way.
0-1 to Barrett. And will be an easy play for Pecota, the left fielder, one away. Before the ball game, Barrett, and apparently there's no love lost between Barrett and manager Joe Morgan. Barrett, like many veterans, very unhappy about his lack of playing time, and I guess deep down he blames Joe Morgan, or sometimes not so deep down. Before the game, he was sitting watching TV or whatever in the clubhouse. Wade Boggs and a couple other guys came over and says, Joe Morgan wants to see you, the manager wants to see you. And he walked into Morgan's office, and all of the members of the media from Boston were there. Barrett says, Skip, you wanted to see me? He says, no. Well, they said you wanted to see me. Came back as Boggs hits it hard to center. And that's caught easily by Eisenreich. Came back a few moments later. He said, Boggs just wanted my seat out there in front of the TV. It was a joke. They got me. Now Kansas City comes up in the last of the 3rd inning. You see the fountains out there, the famous fountains of Royals Stadium. They put on quite a remarkable show between innings here, and after night games they put on a very colorful light show with the water out there. It's not something you see in many ballparks, but you see it in any ballparks except this one.
This is the only one I've seen it in.
Ball one to Steve Jeltz. Used to have a little fountain in, when I was a kid in the wiffle ball stadium we played in the backyard. 1-0 pitch, ball 2 to Jeltz. Jeltz a switch hitter, batting right-handed. To get Jeltz, the Royals traded rather high. That hard-throwing young pitcher with the Phillies, Jose De Jesus, was the man the Royals let go to get Jeltz.
Well, they needed a shortstop, and Jeltz is a good defensive player. He's very quick, has good hands.
Kurt Stillwell, the Royals' regular shortstop, but he's had some injury problems at times the last couple of years. 2-1 the count to Jeltz, the 9th place hitter. That's a foul tip on a check swing. No score, last of the 3rd. Now the 3rd place ball club in the American League West is Seattle. The Mariners doing awfully well with that young ball club under Jimmy Lefebvre. And they won a tough ball game today at Milwaukee, 4-3. Holman beat Higuera. Schooler got a save. That's foul. And that's the ball club that Kansas City has a shot at overtaking. You see the Royals at the bottom, but only 4.5 back of Seattle. And that's right now. They could gain a half game with this victory if they can get it tonight. Only the top 2 teams playing real well in the division, and everybody else kind of bunched up after that in the West. And it is ball 3. 3-2 to Jeltz. Seitzer, the leadoff hitter, the top of the order, coming up next.
Tom Bolton, as I mentioned, good fastball. He's throwing around 84 miles an hour.
3-2 pitch. And he walked him. Coming up Wednesday, you want to see this man, Nolan Ryan. That was his 5,000th strikeout last year. He got Ricky Henderson. An historic moment. And Ryan this past Friday won his 299th lifetime game. He beat the Detroit Tigers. One of his strikeouts Friday was Alan Trammell. And now Wednesday he goes for number 300 against the New York Yankees. You'll be able to see it right here Wednesday, 8:30 Eastern. The Yankees and Nolan Ryan and the Texas Rangers will be there. We hope you'll join us. See if Nolan Ryan can add yet another page historic page to that book of his. So many remarkable accomplishments in his career.
I mentioned that Bolton is throwing 84, 85 miles an hour. Nolan Ryan, of course, throws well over 90. But it's all in the movement, that you have on the pitch that makes the pitch fast or not. If the guy has movement, sometimes a guy will throw a fastball in the last 5 feet, it seems to take off. That's when you say a guy has a very good fastball.
Seitzer with a foul tip, and the count is 1 strike. Seitzer was safe on an error by Bolton, charged to Bolton. He dropped the throw at first base. Scoreless in the 3rd. Well, Ryan had to leave that ball game Friday against Detroit. He's had back problems all year. The back stiffened up against him, and he said he'd have no problem making the start this coming Wednesday. In some ways, though, a remarkable athlete, Nolan Ryan, the ageless one. The age in some ways is beginning to show.
Well, I'm sure that he's pitched the last couple of years with some type of pain, because you throw as many baseballs as he's thrown and throw it as hard, you put a lot of pressure on a lot of different parts of your body, because he's very strong physically and he has real strong legs. I think that's one of the reasons that he's been able to throw so hard for so long.
What kind of a price does he have to pay? I mean, have you ever taken a look at the workout regimen that he undergoes almost every day?
I've heard about it. I'm a believer that if you get in shape and you stay in shape, then you can persevere. But sometimes I think you can overdo this workout stuff, working 5-6 hours a day, etc.
I'm with you on that one.
Well,
as you well know.
Yeah.
Strike 2, 1-2 the count to Seitzer. Well, in Boston now, Roger Clemens, who's idle as a youngster growing up in the Houston area, was Nolan Ryan. In Boston, they feel sometimes that Clemens overdoes it with his workouts.
Well, I don't know how much either one of them actually does, but I know that you can't overdo some of those things.
The 1-2 pitch on the way. 2-2 to Seitzer. Pecota is on deck. There's the Rocket. He's had to leave his last couple of starts rather early. Here Friday and then last weekend, each time against Kansas City. Last Saturday, 8 days ago, he said he had a dead arm. And they found a little muscle strain behind his right shoulder. They're a little concerned about it. But he made his next start here. Pitched well, but lost. The Red Sox got shut out.
Well, he's led the American League in pitches thrown each of the last 3 years.
There's a look at the number of pitches that Roger Clemens has been throwing. Some big laughs down there. There's a foul off to the right and out of play. 2 balls, 2 strikes. When you're a player, Chicken say would make an appearance, something like that. Would that bother you as a player? Would it kind of make you feel like it was detracting from the game?
No, it didn't bother me. I just concentrated between the white lines, as they say. My job was to play. His job is to entertain the fans. So I think you can do both.
2-2 to Seitzer. Really battling it out here with Bolton as they throw to first, and Jeltz is back. No score. Last of the 3rd. Nobody out. What a gorgeous evening in Kansas City. Cerulean blue skies overhead. It's very fresh. No humidity to speak of. Had a great deal of rain here last night, which caused last night's game to be delayed by nearly 2 hours. Down the right field line, and Brunansky runs out of room.
Because this is a baseball-only stadium, they tried to get the fans as close to the playing field as possible. And in doing that, you do not have a lot of room down the right field line or the left field line to run down foul balls. There you see the line going, looks like it goes into the stands. It doesn't actually, but it's very close down the right field line and the left field line.
2-2 to Seitzer. He's a guy who usually gets the bat and the ball, and Bolton is finding that out right now if he didn't already know it. Foul tip held by Pena, strike 3. Seitzer seems to disagree.
Well, Seitzer thought the ball hit the ground. He foul tipped it, and he didn't think Pena caught it.
The left fielder, Bill Pacoda.
It's a good low fastball. Or maybe a little slider. He swings and misses, but Pena caught it. He did foul it, but Pena caught it before it hit the ground. You can clearly see that here. Ball does not hit the ground, but Seitzer thought it hit the ground.
1 out. Here's Pacoda. Runner still at first. Ball 1. Well, the pitch was so low, he's probably just stunned that it didn't hit the ground.
Well, it was a low pitch, and he did make contact with it, but Pena is one of the better catchers in all the major leagues. I mean, he is an excellent receiver.
1 ball to no strikes, and Jones back to the bag again. Bolton and his wife Diane had a child, first child in the Bolton family, back on opening day this year, Kevin. And then Bolton took a little time off to be with his wife. There goes Jeltz. A hit and run is on. Barrett's only plays to first, and he gets Pacoda with Gerald Perry coming up.
That was a good play by the Red Sox. They made the right choice on who was covering the bag, because if Barrett would have been covering, the ball would have gone through to right field. They would have had runners at first and third. But Barrett, being a veteran, knows just about where the guy's going to hit the ball if it's a sinker away. You see Jeltz take off, but the shortstop Jody Reed is covering instead of Barrett. Thus it becomes a 4-3 ground out with Jeltz moving to second.
Now, if you're Bill Pacoda, did you do what you were supposed to do? I mean,
well, what you're supposed to do is put the ball in play, but what you try to do is try to hit one of the holes that are vacated when the guy takes off.
That's a strike to Gerald Perry, trying to deliver a run. No score. Last of the third. 2 down.
So your first priority on a hit and run is to make contact with the baseball. Then your second job is to try to find the hole.
That's a looper. Shallow center, could be trouble. And it is a base hit. It goes right past Romine. For second, Perry, and he's in there safely. That's the Royal Stadium that American League teams have been contending with all these years. 1-0 Kansas City.
So the hit and run actually produces a run for them, because if the runner was still at first base, he would not have been able to score. Romine got a bad break on the ball. He actually broke back first and then came charging in, could not make the play. Greenwell eventually throws it into second base, but not before Perry is in with a double. Ellis Burks is their is a guy that normally plays center field, and Romine just did not get a good jump on the ball. He actually broke back at first.
George Brett grounded to second his first time. Runner in scoring position. 2 down. 1-0 Kansas City. Strike 1.
When you watch George Brett hit, you see the proper approach to the baseball. You step into the hit, into the pitch. A lot of people say you stride, and which causes you to jump, but George Brett steps into the pitch.
0-2 the count to George. He wishes he hadn't stepped into that one.
No, he stepped a little quickly there. He stepped quicker than he normally does. And that got his weight out in front, and once your weight goes forward and your head moves, you chase a lot of sliders.
In the twilight here, you get a look at somewhat what it looks like to Brett there. He takes that one. 1-2. That grassy area still lit up in the bright sunshine of the early evening, late afternoon.
There are a lot of hitting instructors who will tell you to glide into the pitch.
That's a foul ball. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
In the past, you know, when George Brett almost hit 400 that year, I mean, he was almost perfect. Just watch how he kind of steps into the pitch, keeps everything back. Great hitting position right there. But if you watch a lot of hitters, they jump into the pitch. They jump out on the front foot, which causes them to have a lot of head movement. And if your head moves, it's tough to see what you're hitting.
1-2 to George Brett. Years past, a very good two-strike hitter. He fouls that one away. They're making Bolton work in this inning. He's thrown a lot of pitches.
Well, Brett is fighting the ball off, but he's also done one other good thing that I like. George Brett used to hit with almost a closed stance at the plate and stride straight in. Now that he's gotten a little older and his bat is not quite as quick as it was in his early days, he has opened up a little bit against left-handers, which gives him an opportunity to see the ball a little quicker and a little longer. See how the right foot now is not closed, it's kind of square right there.
That's into left center field. Romine's got a long run. He's not going to be able to get there. Base hit. Brett will head for second. He'll make it as Perry has scored, and George Brett gets the clutch 2-out double to deliver run number 2. 2-0 Kansas City.
And this is what the Kansas City Royals did for so long with a lot of great players. They would double you to death. They just trade places with each other on the field. See how he has a good square stance right there. Strides right into the ball, keeps the ball going into left center field, and just kind of drives it out there. See how he just steps into it. Everything looks easy right there.
George gets his 23rd double of the year, his 14th in the last 20 games, this being the 20th game. They're going to walk Pat Tabler intentionally. Now here's where the Royals are hurting a little bit. They've got so many key people on the disabled list right now. Ordinarily, we'd be getting a look at Bo Jackson and Tartable, both on the disabled list right now. There's Eisenreich on deck. Also, usually in a 3 or 4 game series, you're going to face Gubazar and Saberhagen, 2 of the very best. They're both on the disabled list.
Sort of throw to second base by Tony Pena. He's always thinking out there, and he's always watching to see what you're doing if you're on the bases. You see him laughing a little bit there because he could not catch George Brett sleeping.
Well, here's a look at that disabled list, and it is rather crowded. Terry Shumpert is the heir apparent at second base. He's out. Gubazar, Saberhagen, Chartable, and Jackson. I mean, these are all starters. These are all regular players, everyday players. Tough to replace any one of them, much less all of them.
Well, Tartable and Jackson both are 100 RBI men, so you know you missed their run production. Saberhagen and Gubazar are 2 of the best pitchers in the American League when they're healthy.
So here's Eisenreich. He had an infield single his first time, a half swing foul. 2 men on and 2 men down. Ironically, they walked the right-handed hitting Tabler to get to the left-handed hitting Eisenreich. The 2 run scoring doubles in the inning hit by left-handed batters. And Eisenreich has done fairly well against lefties these last couple of years.
Well, I think it's still the percentage. You'd rather have Eisenreich up there facing the good curveball from Bolton rather than have him face Tabler in this situation.
Tabler has long been a very fine clutch hitter. 1 ball, 1 strike to Eisenreich. This is a big moment now early. If Bolton gets Eisenreich, the game's still very manageable. It's 2-0. If Eisenreich gets a hit, it's starting to be a big inning. Good pitch, and Reed forces Tabler at second with Barrett covering. 2 runs, 2 hits, 2 walks, 2 left, and a third of the way through it. Kansas City leading Boston 2-0.
ESPN Sunday Night Baseball brought to you by Levi's 505 and 506 jeans, by General Motors. GM is putting quality on the road, and by Barbasol Gel. Barbasol Gel proves a shaving gel doesn't have to be expensive to be rich.
And you're looking at the 217-foot high Torch of Liberty Memorial to Kansas Cityans who lost their lives in World War I. That memorial was dedicated back in 1921. And yes, Sports Center next after the ball game. There's strike 1 to Jody Reed. Those fans know their ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. Reed doubled his first time. That is still the only hit for the Red Sox against Storm Davis.
And people in Boston say that this is the most well-kept secret in the American League, how well Jody Reed has done. he has been a very key factor in their battle with the Toronto Blue Jays for first place in the American League East.
Jody Reed.
I looked at him today, and being honest with you, I'm small in stature, but I looked at Jody Reed. I said, he's tiny. And he is small.
Little Jody.
Yeah, little Jody.
2-2 the count to Jody, and he's got some very large stats, however.
Yes,
33 doubles, and he's hitting near 300. He's playing an excellent second base, but he can also move over and play an excellent shortstop, as he's doing tonight. Shallow center. Eisenreich, one away. 2-0 Royals ahead. Let's go back to that would-be pickoff throw by Pena on the intentional walk. Brett was at second, and Brett had an interesting reaction, Joe.
Well, as I mentioned, Tony Pena's always trying to catch you napping. He fires down to second base, but Brett's alert, and then Brett signals back to him, next time I'm gonna hit a foul tip off you. You have to be pretty good to do that, though. To hit a foul tip off the catcher.
There's a called strike to Tim Nehring, Red Sox minor league player of the year last year. He's only 23 years of age. We used to make that sound when we were kids, as if to say, shame on you.
Oh, maybe that's what he meant. That's easier to say than to hit a foul tip off the guy.
Well, if he does hit a foul tip off him, our hats off to George Brett.
Right. I know he was good, but I didn't know he was that good.
Hey, baseball's fun again when you're hitting doubles and driving in runs. Your team's winning some games at long last. One thing always kind of characterized Brett, he always played hard, but it looked like he was enjoying it too. A curveball hit off the hands by Nehring. Jeltz throws him out. Well, same old story so far for the Red Sox in this one. No offense. This club has had a terrible time scoring runs. Dwight Evans is out of action. That just makes the problem that much worse.
Well, and you have Ellis Burks out tonight as well, so a couple of their big run producers are not in the ballgame.
In fact, their two leading home run hitters. Burks has 11 homers, a .296 average. There's Quintana, or rather Brunansky, I beg your pardon, and he is thrown out. And Storm Davis is rolling right along. He looks just like last year's 19-game winner. Vintage Storm Davis out here. One hit for the Red Sox. We're going to the last of the fourth. Last of the fourth inning in Kansas City. The Royals leading 2-0, just like old times out here. The Royals, as if they're in the pennant race. In a way, they are tonight. The Red Sox trying for first in the East. Tim Welke, the plate umpire, got jaws there. What was that? Land shark, I guess. Here is Mike McFarland, struck out looking his first time, facing Tom Bolton. 2-0 Kansas City ahead. And that's ball two. Big crowd at Royal Stadium. You'd never know the Royals are down at last place. This place is, what, 35,000, 33,000 maybe on a Sunday night.
You want me to guess? You want to compare notes?
I want to see how good you are.
All right, I would say about 27.
No,
yeah,
no.
What did it hold? 35?
No, it holds 41.
Oh, all right. 33.
Oh, now you're going to change.
Well,
I'm sorry, Joe.
33.
I'm sorry. 27. You're stuck with that one. Better luck next time we come here. 2-1 now to McFarland. White and Jeltz will follow. 2-0. The Royals ahead. It's a great baseball area. I mean, they support the Royals regardless. That one, Pena will not have a chance to get to. It's onto the net. 2-2 the count.
You know, when I think about the Royals, here's a tradition that they've had, of that is a winning tradition. I think about guys like Hal McRae and Willie Wilson, Frank White, George Brett. All these guys contributed. Big John Mayberry, all these guys contributed to this franchise. And I think George Brett told me once that when Hal McRae came over from the Cincinnati Reds after playing with Pete Rose, etc., he came over and he really showed them how to win. He taught them how to play the game, how to play it hard, how to be aggressive. And they had a great run there of a number of years when all those guys were together. Now some of these guys are in the twilight of their careers. It's a little tough situation for the Royals, actually.
McFarland down on strikes. Off-speed delivery there from Bolton for strike three.
Well, Bolton has been throwing about 85 miles an hour, and he throws, this is a changeup. It comes in at 72 miles an hour, and that's a 13 miles per hour difference, and you'll see McFarland way out in front. Bolton has a pretty classic motion for a left-hander. Hides the ball pretty well right there, keeps it behind him, then he kind of jumps at you.
This is the bunt by Frank White, and it is going to roll foul. One strike to count. Naring very wisely let that one roll foul. Frank will have to come back to the plate and try it over again.
We're talking about, you know, some of the roles, Frank White, and what they're going to do with some of these guys. Frank White is a guy they have to make a decision on. They've got Schumpert, you know, who is the heir apparent, as you said earlier, and they've got Willie Wilson. They've got to make some decisions on what they're going to do with those guys.
Frank White will turn 40 September the 4th. He's won so many Gold Gloves. He's won 8. Shares the all-time lead in that category with none other than Bill Mazeroski, each with 8 Gold Gloves at second base. He won 6 in a row at one time. Only Ryne Sandberg, Tommy Herr, and Jim Gantner have had a better career fielding percentage. But around here, Joe, people who watch him every day, they say that they just will not ever be persuaded that there's anybody who's ever played the position better than Frank White has played it.
The only guy I would think would have played it better may have been Mazeroski, because he was just such a fine defensive player. But I don't think the other guys who have higher fielding averages were as good defensively as Frank White is.
He's been playing for the Royals since 1973. That was the year this ballpark opened.
And he was the first guy to come through their academy. They had the academy set up to, you know, work players out, train them, and then make them, you know, make it easier for them to get to the major leagues. And he was the first graduate of the Kansas City Academy to make it to the major leagues.
Sid Thrift, I think, had something to do with that. That's a ball. In fact, he was selected for the Academy among hundreds of candidates in a tryout held at the old Municipal Stadium here in town back in 1970. Was signed to his first pro contract by Sid Thrift. It was a great idea, but it was very expensive.
Yeah, very expensive. They don't have the Academy anymore because of that.
Ball 4 to Frank White. Think about Frank. He has become not only really a legendary figure in this ballpark. I mean, he's owned that second base position here almost from the day the ballpark opened, but he's made himself a very important part of this community.
Right.
Involved in many charitable functions and fundraising efforts. And he's a wonderful guy.
Well, that's why I say it's a big decision for the Royals to say, okay, we're not going to re-sign him. We're going to let him go. You know, the community may be a little upset.
Jeltz, the hitter, could beat 2. Barrett to Reed 1. The first 2. A double play. And that's the inning. 4-6-3. And at the end of 4, it's Kansas City 2 and Boston nothing. And the Red Sox into the 5th inning. From Royal Stadium in Kansas City, John Miller, Joe Morgan with Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. Storm Davis got a 1-hitter going into the 5th inning. Carlos Quintana is the hitter. He grinded out his first time. Greenwell and Pena will follow. 2-0 Royals. One hopper. There's Frank White. Smoothly and quickly one away.
When you play on AstroTurf and the ball's hit hard on the infield, the runner really doesn't have a chance to break up the double play. Watch, Frank White will be sliding for the bag. He is not sliding for Jody Reed because he has to get down from the throw right here. And you'll see he is not going for the fielder.
Mike Greenwell, he hits one to Frank White. That's the wrong guy to hit it to, guys.
No doubt.
2 down.
No doubt about that. You hit it to Frank White, you're going to make a right turn.
2 down, nobody on, and Tony Pena's coming up. Hard to believe Frank White is going to be 40.
When you said that, it kind of surprised me a little bit. I know he's been playing for a long time, but 40 is getting up in age, especially for a second baseman or a middle infielder.
When last we saw Frank White back in May, he had lost the job to Schumpert. And he said he wasn't making any waves about it. He understood what this was all about, but he also was concerned and a little upset that it looked like perhaps he was injured and just not able to continue, or had lost his skills, that they didn't want him to play any longer. He wanted us to get the word out that he was not hurt, that he was still well capable of playing a very fine second base, and he was even willing to go in a trade somewhere if he could play and help a ball club in a pennant race.
Well, I think he would actually play better on a natural turf.
Here's Seitzer to Brent. Storm Davis is making this look ridiculously easy. He has retired 10 in a row. We go to the last of the 5th inning. Davis has a one-hitter going, 2-0. The Royals lead the Red Sox. The 1977 All-Star Game, Baltimore ace Jim Palmer facing Reds great Joe Morgan.
Uh-oh, that's deep. Way back. Jackson near the wall. 1-0.
Morgan's leadoff home run started the National League's 4-run first inning and propelled them to a 7-5 victory.
Well,
Joe, I saw Tommy Lasorda give you that pat there. He loved you. He says he hated you, but he loved you.
Well, he did hate me when we played the Dodgers, but we're on the same team then.
We're in Kansas City, and this is many years later now.
Well, I look at that photo, and I see all the hair that Jim Palmer had, and I had a lot of hair then. We're a little older now.
Yeah, I had no hair at that time also. No change there.
Truthfully, that's one of the highlights of my career because I'd always admired Jim Palmer, and he was in the American League while I was in the National League, and for me to hit a home run off a guy like that, it really meant a lot to me, especially at that time. Now it means even more.
He never recovered from that either.
It's funny because he only remembers that time that he faced me. He doesn't remember all the times he got me out, like in the World Series or in other All-Star games, but he remembers me hitting a home run off of him in Yankee Stadium.
Jim Palmer and Joe Morgan into the Hall of Fame, and it's not long now, 2 weeks from today.
Yeah, I'm too nervous. I get more nervous every day, and I'm sure Jim is too. We've talked about it a couple of times.
Have you written your speech? You have it all prepared?
Well, no, I haven't really. I've worked on a few items that I want to get in, but I'm going to take a couple of days at the Hall of Fame and kind of just get all my thoughts together at that time.
Swing and a miss by Seitzer on the changeup from Bolton. 4th strikeout for Bolton.
Well, that was a great change up there because he took about 20 miles off of his fastball. He's been throwing 85, and that one was 65. So good changeup. You can see Seitzer is way out in front.
Here's Bill Pecota.
We've said so often that pitching is keeping the hitter off balance, and you do that by moving the ball around or changing speeds or doing both.
So you're going to get to Cooperstown when?
Probably, I think Thursday night.
So
late Thursday night.
3 or so days ahead of time. Pecota with a fly ball to straightaway center. Romine is back there. And that's the second out of the inning.
In fact, a friend of mine that was going with me to Cooperstown had surgery the other day, and I want to wish him well, and hopefully he'll be up and around by that time. Dennis Post, a friend of mine back in the Bay Area, he was going to make the trip to Cooperstown with me, and I hope that he will be able to make it. They say he's been recovering very quickly, and he may be able to go with me, so I'm looking forward to that.
Well, everybody looking forward to the induction ceremonies.
When I say I'm nervous, I think the thing that I'm most nervous about is to be standing there, and behind me is Ted Williams, Willie Mays, Willie McCovey, Willie Stargell, all these great players, Sandy Koufax. And here I am standing up there talking about Joe Morgan. So I think that's the thing that I'm most nervous about at this time.
Joe Morgan, then in years to come, will be one of those standing behind the new inductees, making them so nervous.
I'll be looking forward to that.
Quintana gets the put out. And both pitchers are making it look easy right now. 3 up, 3 down at the end of 5. 2-0 Kansas City. We'll be back. Now Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN continues. Thank you very much. Broken back grounded by Romine. And that's the way Storm Davis has been doing it all night long. He's staying ahead in the count. They're going after him aggressively, and he's getting them out routinely.
Well, it's amazing to think that he is 3-6 after the way we have seen him pitch in the 2 Sunday night broadcasts we've done. I mean, he's had excellent control in both ball games, and he's had excellent stuff. So and both times he had a 1-hitter. So far in this ball game, he's only given up 1 hit. He had a 1-hitter through 7 the last time he pitched.
Let's see, 5 1/3 innings tonight. So on Sunday Night Baseball, I don't mean to maybe feel like we're too important here, but 12 2/3 innings on Sunday nights. He's given up only 2 hits and no earned runs.
Right, but he doesn't have a win yet. No decision last time.
On the other hand,
He's looking good.
What's he gotten out of it? Nothing. Storm Davis. At one time they thought he was the heir apparent to Jim Palmer in Baltimore.
He always reminded me of Jim Palmer when I first saw him.
Palmer won Cy Young awards almost routinely. His nickname, Mike Flanagan gave him the nickname of Cy Old. I'm not sure Palmer always appreciated that, but when Storm Davis came along and looked so much like Palmer, his nickname from Flanagan was Cyclone. 2-1.
You know, I think that's one of the things I miss most about baseball, John, is the camaraderie in the clubhouse and the guys kidding each other and laughing and joking about your shortcomings or things that they think they can pick on you about. I really miss that part of the game.
Well, now you can pick on Ted Williams. And
no, not possible.
And that's foul down the right field line. Ted Williams, when you think of the Red Sox, you certainly think of Ted Williams, Yastrzemski.
Well, I think of Ted Williams when I think about hitting. He's the first guy that comes to my mind when I think about hitting. I know there have been a lot of great hitters in baseball, and I was fortunate enough to play with a lot of them. But, you know, when I think about hitting, I think about Ted Williams first and foremost.
3-2 now to Marty Barrett, who flied to left his first time. 1 out. We're in the 6th. 2-0. Kansas City ahead. Boston with only 1 hit. Ted Williams, I don't even know if he can stand to watch this so far. That is a base hit just off the edge of Jonas's glove. He went high to get after it, but it's in there for a hit. Well, we're watching the Royals tonight without Bo Jackson, but Bo is here. He and his wife Linda had their first daughter yesterday, Morgan, their 3rd child. That looks like one of the other children of Bo Jackson that joined the ball game with Bo, with Dad. That's not where we like to see Bo. We like to see him out there in the field.
Well, he was really starting to play well. He hit 3 home runs by the 5th inning in the ball game that he was injured in last Wednesday, and I mean, he had at least 2 more at bats coming, so he may have been able to hit 4 home runs, which only a few players in Major League history have been able to do in one ball game.
Wade Boggs 0 for 2, and there's a base hit through the wide open right side of the infield. And heading for 3rd is Barrett, and he'll make it easily. Jones cuts off the throw, and now Boston is in business.
There's good hustle by Barrett there. The one thing you really like from your left-handed hitters to be able to hit that hole on the right side if there's a runner on first, because you can usually get the guy around to 3rd because it's such a long throw from right field to 3rd base. And Boggs, being such a good batsman, was able to pull the ball, and Barrett made up his mind he was going to 3rd. I don't even see a brace on his knee. Seems to be okay. He's running very well going to 3rd base. Nice hustle.
And now here's a guy, as you see Marty Barrett at 3rd base. The guy coming up is a guy they'd like to have up there in this spot, Jody Reed. He's hit a double already tonight, the only other hit for Boston until this inning. Ball 1. The bullpen's going to get busy. This is the time of the game where if Storm Davis starts to show signs of faltering, they show signs of getting somebody up in the bullpen, and it was that way in Oakland too.
Exactly. Storm has not been a pitcher, a guy that goes 9 innings. He's not a complete game pitcher most of the time. He pitches well into the 6th or 7th inning, and that's about enough.
In the bullpen, there's the veteran right-hander Steve Crawford, a guy who came up originally with the Red Sox. He's heating up out in the right field bullpen. It's 2-0 Kansas City, but that lead is in jeopardy now. The Royals are hoping for a double play ball here. Brent is on the bag at first with Boggs. Barrett down the line from 3rd. Ball 2, 2-1. Well, Storm Davis very often had the lead after those first 6 innings or 7 innings, and then Oakland had the bullpen to make sure that they held the lead for him. Storm last year averaged only a little bit less than 6 innings per start. We're about right where he is now. Let's see if this is deep enough to get Barrett home. I think so. Eisenreich with the catch. He won't even try it. And Barrett scores easily. 2-1. Boston with its first run of the game. Reed delivering it on the fly ball.
You know, it may seem like a little thing, but there aren't a lot of guys who can consistently get that runner in from 3rd base with 1 down. But at this stage of the ball game, that was very important, because now, no matter what happens the rest of the inning, you will always have the tying run at the plate. which means one swing can tie the ball game. Whereas if you stay 2 or more runs down, you have to get a couple of runners on base to get the tying run to the plate.
Tim Naring, the hitter, 0 for 2 in this game. That is fouled on the right field line. A long run by Tabler, but no play. 1 strike to count. Boggs at first base, 2 down, 6th inning. The crowd very quiet right now. They've been fairly quiet most of the evening, except for that 2-run 3rd inning rally by the Royals. Each team with 3 hits for the game now. And the breaking ball misses. Storm picked up a forkball last year. They said that Dave Stewart taught it to him, and he had great success with it. But he says right now, because of the injury to the knuckle on his index finger and his throwing hand, that put him on the disabled list till recently. Right now he's not able to throw the split finger. So his changeup is just the straight change tonight.
Well, he's throwing, the last pitch was 88 miles an hour, so he's throwing real well still.
That one is down the left field line, hooking, foul. It was 87 miles per hour. And it went out faster than that, I think.
Yeah, but he's lucky. If he had thrown at 88, he might have stayed fair.
That's a good point.
Yeah, if he got it to the plate a little quicker, he might have kept it fair.
Not sure Storm planned it that way, but it worked out. He got him looking. Breaking ball to the outside corner. And Naring goes down. But the Red Sox cut that lead in half with a run, 2 hits, and 1 man left. Brett, Tabler, and Eisenreich coming up. He does. And we're with ESPN Sunday Night Baseball in Kansas City. George Brett coming up. What's the difference between the 37-year-old Brett of today and the 27-year-old Brett of 1980?
Well, in 1980, there weren't a lot of spots you could pitch him. Very narrow here and very narrow here. Now in 1990, a little bigger. But when you come in here, you better have a real good fastball. And out here, excellent fastball, 89 miles an hour or above, with real good movement. Or you get the ball in the middle of the plate, he will either take you to left field in the gap, or he can pull the ball.
He took the ball to left field last time in the gap. This time up the middle, base hit, 2nd straight hit for George Brett.
And that was a fastball in the middle of the plate.
That's one of those red areas you told us about.
That was one of the red areas. Well, I've told you his approach. Watch how his front foot just steps toward the pitcher. Everything stays right there. Head stays right there. Lines it right in the center field. Watch where his head stays, right on the ball. Look at that. That's good hitting.
Nice hitting, Lou. Here's Pat Tabler now. 4 hits for Kansas City. 2-1, the Royals ahead, last of the 6th. So far, though, although he's trailing, Bolton giving the Red Sox what they'd hoped for. Kept them right in the ball game. Should be 2. Naring to Barrett, 1 to Furs, 2.
That's a big league double play.
Brett tried to take him out.
That's a big league double play. Well, George Brett has always been an aggressive base runner, and he breaks up a lot of double plays. But this is a great play by Naring. I mean, this ball's hit like a shot. He has to go down on his knees to stop it. Now from his knees, he makes a perfect throw to Barrett. Barrett comes across. Kind of routine after that. Watch Brett. He's coming right after him. See, the difference now is Brett goes after the fielder. Before, we saw Frank White on a hard hit ball to the middle of the infield. He had to get out of the way of the throw. But right there, Brett goes after him. Nice play by Barrett.
Here's Eisenreich. Two down, nobody on. Eisenreich with an infield single, and he's hit into a force play. 1 for 2. And the count is 2 strikes on appeal. Ruled a swing by that man, Drew Coble. A ball and 2 strikes. George Brett said, I'm 37 and still going after those guys.
Well, he does, and he went after Barrett there. Just the ball got there a little quickly for him.
That'll go out of play off the left field side. 1 and 2.
Yeah, the ball got to second base too quick, and all he could do was go after him. But a lot of times, that's all you need to do. A lot of second basemen can put pressure on them and let them know you're there. You can cause them to make an errant throw to first base.
2-2.
All double plays are not broken up by hitting the guy. A lot of them are broken up just by putting enough pressure on him so that he knows that you are there.
2-2 pitch into left center. A long run, but getting there is Greenwell, and that retires the side. Jerry Reed had gotten up in the Boston bullpen after the Brett single, but now no need. One hit, nobody left. We're heading for the 7th inning with Kansas City leading 2-1.
The Giants battle the Dodgers, or in some areas see the Blue Jays take on the Royals and the Reds meet the Padres. Tuesday night live on ESPN.
ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, brought to you by Goodyear Wrangler Radials, the tires that will take you just about anywhere. But remember, tread lightly. By Showtime, Showtime exclusives. Here you see them, there you don't. And by IBM. Whatever your size, whatever your needs, IBM is working to bring you the best solutions.
Sunday Night Baseball from Kansas City's Royals Stadium. 2-1. The Royals ahead as we go to the 7th. Storm Davis, 6 strong innings, giving up just 3 hits, but now he gives way to Steve Crawford. Big veteran right-hander. Tom Brunansky, the hitter. And he takes ball 1. Now the late innings of games, when they're in the bullpen, that's been a problem for the Royals, particularly early on this year. Been better lately. That's a ball. 2-0.
And everyone knows about the trials and tribulations of left-hander Mark Davis, but right now he's got a little tightness in his elbow, so he may not even pitch in the ball game. But he hasn't been put in a save situation in quite a while.
Change up from Crawford, and it is 2-1. Brunansky, the hitter, is twice grounded to third. He's hit 20 homers or more in each of the last 8 years. Only Cal Ripken of the Orioles and Dale Murphy of the Atlanta Braves and his current teammate Dwight Evans of the Red Sox have been able to match that. 20 or more homers 8 straight years. And off-speed delivery for called strike 2. Now Brunansky is going to have to go some to do it again a 9th straight year. He's only hit 6 since coming to Boston.
Well, and that's amazing because when he went to Boston, everyone felt like he was going to hit over 20 very easily, but he has not hit for a lot of power since he was acquired by the Red Sox.
He is gone looking. Strike 3 called.
The one thing that Steve Crawford does is he makes a right-hander blink a little bit. He is a little tough on the right-hander because he slings the ball. He doesn't have a fluid motion. Watch how he kind of slings the slider right there, and he falls over, and that slider just catches the outside corner. He's a big guy, and this is what it looks like. So he kind of slings the ball. He's not very fluid. That's 85-mile-an-hour fastball right there.
To Quintana, who has grounded to third and grounded to second. When Storm Davis was in there, the Red Sox could hardly hit the ball to the outfield. Almost everybody hit ground balls. From the stretch, Crawford delivers, and there's strike 2. Thrown 5 straight strikes here after falling behind Brunansky 2-0.
Well, Quintana's going to have problems with him anyway because he's so far off the plate, and your body gives a little bit anyway because he slings the ball almost sidearm. So he's given up the outside corner, and so far Crawford has hit the outside corner with 2 pitches.
Crawford, originally from Pryor, Oklahoma, grew up in Oklahoma, but broke into the big leagues with the Boston Red Sox 10 years ago.
Look how far Quintana is away from the plate. And watch his first movement. That gives away the outside corner. See, he can't reach that pitch. The first rule of hitting is to be able to cover the entire plate. Plus, the good hitters wanted to be able to cover about 4 to 5 inches off the outside corner. So you get close enough to the plate that you can handle that. So he can't handle that pitch.
He would have been better off not even going after that one. 2 down. Now, coming up Wednesday night right here on ESPN, we'll get a look at Nolan Ryan, who last year got his 5,000th strikeout, which is maybe 1,000 more than almost anybody else. And then Friday night against Detroit. I mean, 2 nights ago here against Detroit, he got his 299th victory. One of his strikeouts to that one against Alan Trammell. Then Wednesday against the Yankees, he goes for number 300. Here's Greenwell. And he takes the ball. 1 ball and no strikes. Greenwell has walked and grounded to second.
I know Ricky Henderson is tired of seeing that on film. That 5,000 strikeout of Nolan Ryan. He said people might think that's the only thing I ever did was strike out against Nolan Ryan.
So it looked like he was about 3,000 of those 5,000. Base hit for Greenwell. So with 2 down, that'll bring up Tony Pena.
Well, see, there's the difference. Greenwell is left-handed. Crawford is very tough on right-handers. From the left side, you can see the ball off of him. You get plenty of time as George Brett is dressing Greenwell at first base. But see, you can see a lot different here. See how you can see the ball right out of his hand. From the right side, it's a little tougher because you automatically give a little bit.
Now here's Pena. He's hit into a double play. And he's grounded to third. 0 for 2.
You know, Tony Pena is really the guy that kind of brought this Red Sox team together. He was kind of the real missing piece there. They needed a catcher. They went out and got a real good one. And not only that, he's a team leader. He's kind of a leader. He was a guy that kind of led them as far as retaliating against, you know, the Cleveland Ball Club. And in the past, the Red Sox have been known to be kind of passive. At least that's what Mike Greenwell said. And now that Tony Pena is there, he's kind of a go-getter, and he's helped change the attitude of the Red Sox. And Joe Morgan, the manager, got in trouble for saying so. So it's kind of an interesting situation, but I think he has been a real find for the Boston Red Sox.
Meanwhile, down in Arlington, Texas, the Detroit Tigers leading Texas 3-1. Last of the 5th in that ball game. Nolan Ryan is not pitching tonight. That's a called strike on the outside. 1 ball, 2 strikes. You saw moments ago the sweeping look at the infield defense of the Royals, and they're late in the ball game with a 1-run lead now. They've got the third baseman Seitzer over near the line. He's not right on the line, but he's close to it. The 1-2 pitch, check swing and a foul off to the right. Tony Pena, he's been hurting his the thumb on his throwing hand is about twice the size of the thumb on his left hand, and every time he bats he's got to wear this little kind of a rubber ring around it to protect the thumb from the shock of hitting the ball with the bat.
But that only gives you psychological protection. You think it's going to help you, but once they jam you or you hit the ball funny on the bat, shock wave go all through your hand. It goes all up your arms and everything else. So it's just really psychological protection because he thinks it's going to help.
1-2 pitch, base hit to right field. Greenwell had to jump over the top of it, and he'll stop at second base as Tabler gets it back in to Frank White.
So Tony Pena is a battler too. And those are the kind of guys you want on your ball club. Greenwell leads off, and Pena takes a shot to right field and has to avoid being hit because obviously if he gets hit, he's out. And he can only go to second base on the play. Pena was a little different than Quintana. The ball was away and Tony Pena went out and got it. He can cover the entire plate with his bat.
Here's Kevin Romine now. He's grounded out twice. 2 down, 2 on in the 7th. The base hit could tie this game. And that off-speed delivery for a called strike to Romine. Remember, Ellis Burks is hurting. He's got a bad hamstring. He injured it before the All-Star game. It caused him to miss the All-Star game. They used him as a designated hitter for a while. Now Joe Morgan feels he's going to need a few days off without doing anything to get that hamstring healthy enough to play again. Check swing. They appeal it. Dale Ford says yes. 0-2. Did he say yes?
Yes.
Yes, he did.
Strike 2. But again, Crawford is very tough on the right-handed hitter.
Kevin Romine, he can play all over the outfield. He runs well. Greenwell, the possible tying run at second. Pena at first. Both better to go in anything. And gonna have to hurry. That's Steve Jeltz. Here's his throw just in time. And the Red Sox go down. 2 hits and 2 left. They've now stranded 4 for the game. 2-1, Kansas City ahead. Kansas City taking their 7th inning stretch. The Royals are ahead 2-1. It's a rather nervous stretch at this point. Joe, a very nice play by Steve Jeltz to put down the Red Sox.
Well, I said he was a very good defensive player, and this is a very tough play. Look, Crawford can not get it, and it's right over the mound. He comes a long way, cuts in front. He's about 10 feet on the second base side when he makes the play. Very good play by Steve Jeltz, and a good play at first base by George Brett.
Stretched out to get it. Here's Mike McFarland, struck out twice in this game. 2-1 Kansas City ahead. Tom Bolton is still out there, the lefty, with his second straight very strong outing as a starter. And there's ball one. By the way, we've received word that Storm Davis, who had been on the disabled list with an injured knuckle on the index finger of his right hand, and apparently that knuckle is giving him some trouble, and that's why he had to leave the ball game when he did. 1-1 the count to McFarland. White and Jeltz will follow. Bolton, a winner the other night, 1-0 over the Twins. He went 8 shutout innings against Kirby Puckett and Kent Hrbek and Gary Gaetti and Dan Gladden and all of those guys. Ryan Harper.
I can see why. He has a very good fastball, good breaking ball, and he throws strikes. We mentioned at the beginning, if a left-hander can throw strikes, he can usually be successful in the major leagues. He does not have to have as good a stuff as a right-hander.
2-2. He missed about 2 months of time after his child was born, Kevin, on opening day, and he had some tendinitis. There's a foul, and the count remains 2-2, and the broken bat there by McFarland. He'll have to go get a new one. And then he went to Pawtucket, the AAA ball club, and then manager Ed Knottle apparently was not pleased with him and sort of made him the forgotten man down there.
It looks like the chicken is climbing up. I was going to tell him if he could go about 50 more feet, he would go where Bo Jackson hit the longest home run in Royal Stadium history. That 385 sign, see the second light in the grass there. He hit a ball right about there, and that's 475 feet. Right there is where Bo Jackson hit it. The longest home run in Royals history, also Royal Stadium history.
2-2 the count. The chicken is out there. That ball's so high up on that hill. The chicken is making a Sisyphean climb.
No, he almost made it.
Well, that's what happened to Sisyphus. Every time he got near the top, he fell back again. He was doomed to do that for all eternity. Hopefully the chicken won't have to repeat that. That's foul. 2-2 the count to McFarland. We're in the 7th. The Royals ahead 2-1. Next Sunday we'll be in Shea Stadium in New York as the Cardinals take on the New York Mets. Cardinals have won 4 in a row. Willie McGee's having a fine year. Talk that he might get traded. There's a base hit from McFarland. Pretty tough at bat there by McFarland. Fouled away a lot of pitches, then picked out one he liked.
What happens is you've seen a pitcher about 3 times, even though he struck McFarland out a few times. You get to foul off a few pitches. Now you get a chance to gauge him, and he just waits on the breaking ball and pulls it in the hole. As a hitter, what you try to do when you see a pitcher, you're going to bat against him 4 times in a ball game. The first time up, you try to see as many pitches as you possibly can. You want to see how fast his fastball is, how much movement there is on it. You want to see what his curveball does, how big a break there is on it, and his changeup. If you can see all his pitches in the first inning, that gives you 3 quality at-bats the next 3 times. If you do not see them, it takes you a little longer to gauge everything that he throws. But once you have all his pitches down, you should be able to make good contact.
There's Jerry Reed, veteran right-hander, warming up in the Boston bullpen. And there's Joe Morgan, the guy who gets your mail all of the time.
Well, all of a sudden I'm getting his calls. I got a call this morning and I answered the phone. He said, Joe? I said, yes. He said, I want to talk to you. I said, well, go ahead. And it was Lou Gorman.
What?
Yeah.
Hey, you could have picked up some really revealing stuff.
I should have let him talk, but I said, Lou, you have the wrong Joe Morgan.
Well, I suppose Chuck went up for ethics there,
right.
Joe. Very ethical. But we don't get any big stories here. A lot of talk about the Red Sox. I mentioned Willie McGee and people talking about maybe McGee being traded. The Blue Jays are interested, apparently. At least those are the rumors. And of course the Red Sox, they could use another pitcher. They could use another hitter.
you know, I like Willie McGee. I think he's a guy that can really help a lot of ball clubs. Here's 71 strikes, 39 balls. That's good ratio for Tom Bolton. And you look at the scoreboard, and you see he's pitched a fine ball game.
Well, those Blue Jays last year, they picked up Mookie Wilson for the stretch run, and that really paid off as they were able to overcome the Baltimore Orioles and win the American League East. Willie McGee seems to be another guy who could fit right in there.
Well, Willie McGee has been the most valuable player in the league. That's quality for you. He can do a lot of things. He plays great defense, although this year he struggled a little bit defensively. He's made about 11 errors, but he wins Gold Gloves in center field, runs the ball down well, steals bases, and he's a good switch hitter.
One strike delivery. White swings up the middle, base hit into center field. McFarland will go to second and hold. And the Royals are in business now against Bolton here in the 7th inning.
If the Boston Red Sox are keeping gauge of how hard Bolton is throwing, he's losing a little bit on his fastball to the last couple of hitters. He's been throwing about 85 and above. Now he's around 80 to 83. So, and you know, you say 2 miles an hour. What is that? That's a lot when you're throwing 60 feet 6 inches, because it lets the hitter get the barrel of the bat another foot out in front as compared to being caught right over the plate.
Well, the Red Sox having a conversation out there, almost a team meeting on the mound here. It's a bunt situation with Jeltz up, 2 on, nobody out, and Joe, what they discuss what kind of defense they're going to employ and things like that.
Most teams have a trick play. They have a lot of different names for it, but it's a rotation play where the third baseman charges in and the first baseman charges in. What they're doing there, Jody Reed and Tom Bolton is saying, wait until I make my break before you deliver the ball to the plate. On a rotation play, the shortstop goes to third, and Jody Reed was given the signals, but now Joe Morgan comes out, and maybe they're going to take Bolton out.
Well, they've got Jerry Reed, the right-hander, ready in the bullpen.
So maybe all that strategy doesn't matter.
We'll have to discuss it all over again with Jerry Reed if he's coming in. No signals yet.
Well,
that was quick.
Bolton said the right thing, whatever it was, or he listened well.
There's Reed out in the bullpen. He's ready. He's been ready for a while. 2-1 Kansas City. Big crowd, 33,255. And Joe Morgan, who originally guessed 27 and lost.
No, I said 33. I didn't know the stadium held 40.
Yeah, but we were not forgiving, Joe. But we will give you this, that you did get
33.
33 when we told you what the actual capacity of the stadium was. Very good. It's officially a loss, but we'll remember. Jeltz is already showing bunt, and he does bunt it. Pena's going to go to third, and he got him. Throw back to first, not in time. Wow.
As I said before, Tony Pena is one of the best catchers in all of the major leagues. Benito Santiago, in my opinion, is the best, but this guy is right up there with him, and he's quick like a cat. He anticipates well. Watch how quickly he gets out on this ball. He almost ran into the hitter, and he fires a strike, gives him a chance for the double play. If Reed could have gotten the ball out of his glove a little quicker, I think they would have had a double play. See, he has to wait for the runner to move out of the way. He's so quick out of the box.
And that was the so-called rotation play. You see Naring there, there's Naring. He was charging the plate, and Reed was releasing and going to cover third base, and it paid off very nicely. Now, here's the leadoff man, Kevin Seitzer of the Royals, not doing the little thing there, moving the runners up when they needed to here. A chance to break this game open in the late innings. There's White at second base, and Jeltz, the man who bunted the ball, at first.
And that's unusual because Jeltz is a good bunter. He is good at sacrificing the runners over. He actually just bunted it a little too softly, and as I mentioned, Pena was quick on the ball.
That's it high in the air, drifting back in right field. Brunansky, the runners will hold, and just like that, 2 men gone. Seitzer is 0 for 4.
Well, maybe I should have checked his swing out for him in batting practice while they were teasing me.
That's right. He made a joke and said, look at me do my Joe Morgan impression. And he needed a few words of advice. Pena hand delivers the ball back to Tom Bolton. Well, when Bolton went in as a starter last Tuesday, almost an emergency situation, and what they really needed, they were struggling, was in effect, to catch lightning in a bottle, and for him to do something that maybe they weren't even in their wildest dreams expecting. He did it. He won 1-0, and now he's putting in another very strong performance tonight. Here's Pacoda, looped, but there's Barrett, and it turns into an easy play. Pacoda is also 0 for 4, and so the Royals do not get anybody home. 2 hits, but then a failure on the bunt, and the 2 runners are stranded.
Making as Nolan Ryan goes for win number 300 against the Yankees. Or in some areas, see the Mariners face the Twins. Wednesday night live on ESPN.
Here's the chicken. He's trying to act very relaxed out there, but we've got a tight ball game going. First place is at stake for the Red Sox in the American League East. It is kind of pretty out there. He's out near the fountains, and I don't know if they stock those with bass or whatever, but he's gonna find out apparently. Here is Marty Barrett, and the Red Sox need a base runner. They got Boggs coming up, then Jody Reed. Barrett looks at a strike from Steve Crawford. 2-1, Kansas City leading. Coming into this game, Kansas City was leading the American League in team batting average, and Boston was second. So far, we've had only 3 runs in this game and only 11 hits. Not been much hitting. Been some excellent pitching. Toward the middle, but Jeltz gets there. And Barrett is retired. He's 1 for 3. And now Boggs.
I don't know how you can read the paper with a ball game like this going on, 2-1, but you seem, well, I guess you have to be relaxed to fish. That's not one of my favorite sports, though, John. I must admit. Yeah, I'm an active person, golf, tennis, etc.
Well, you like that running game. Not a whole lot of that in fishing.
No.
Here's Wade Boggs. He's flied to left. He's lined to center, and he is singled, helping set up the Boston run. 1 for 3. That is outside. Now Boggs, interestingly enough, has had a long string of 200 hit seasons, and that string is in jeopardy. He's had 200 hits or more in 6 straight seasons, and this year so far he has only 105.
Well, I think the greatest thing about the graphic we saw is that this guy has had 200 hits for 4 seasons. He also had 100 walks. I mean, that's usually guys that get 200 hits do not walk at all because they're swinging at everything.
Brett, who was hugging the line, still able to get to it, and Boggs is retired. 2 down. Boggs, by the way, has had 200 hits or more in 7 straight seasons. 7 consecutive years. And if he can do it again this year, that'll be 8 straight. It's only been done 1 other time in the history of baseball. And there's Boggs' place on the all-time list. Look at that. Cobb, Hornsby, Shoeless, Joe Jackson, and Wade Boggs. 349. Boggs needs 94 more hits now this year, and he's only got 68 more games after tonight. He'll have to hit, if he plays every game, he'll have to hit about 365, 370 to do it, and he is fully capable of that.
That's what I say. That's well within his range.
Boggs to get 200 hits, as we figure it. John Dewan did some calculating. If he plays every game and has the same number of at-bats per game as he's had this year, 95 hits coming into this game is what he would need. There's Jody Reed with a dunker for a base hit. That's the 6th Boston hit. Boggs, of course, what was it, a couple years ago when Boston won a division title in September. I mean, for the last 32 or 33 games, hit 425 or something.
Well, he can hit 400 months at a time, so I don't think there's a, I mean, if he gets hot, he can make the 200 hits easily, but I mean, to get hot is the question. You know, he's gone so far this season just, you know, kind of struggling, so to speak. He said he'd get hot and then he'd cool off a little bit.
This guy's struggling, who came into the game hitting 301. The Kansas City bullpen is very busy. And Frank Funk is out there. There's McGaffigan on the right of your screen, and Montgomery, number 21, on the left-hand side of your screen. Montgomery has been the closer for the Royals this year. By the way, one other note about Boggs. He was saying he needs 94 more hits to to reach 200 hits again for the 8th straight time. Last year, from this date onward, he had 97 hits. So, and he was not doing all that well up to this point of last year. Not all that hot for a Wade Boggs. The decade of the 80s. There's some pretty outstanding talent there, but look who's #1 for batting average in that time, and it's not even close.
No, 20 points. It's a lot. Tony Gwynn hit 370 in the 80s. That's one of the reasons he has such a high average of 332 going into this season.
1987 he hit 370. That's foul by Tim Nehring, the rookie, with 2 down. Reed at first. Boggs, he's a young George Brett fan. Boggs has had full seasons where he's hit as high as 368, 366, 363, 361. What's that? He's had 4 different years where he's hit better than 360 for the whole year. If he hits about that for the rest of this year, he'll get his 200 hits quite likely.
Well, you saw a graphic of the only guys that are normally up in that range, along with the great Ted Williams, Roger Hornsby and Ty Cobb and Shoeless Joe Jackson. Those are the guys that understand what 360 is all about.
A ball and a strike to Nehring. It's out of play. 1 ball and 2 strikes. One thing this Boston franchise has always had over the years, and I think we're Red Sox fans are blessed, because maybe it's Fenway Park or maybe it's just that tradition of offense, whether the Sox are in the pennant race or not, and usually they are these last 23, 24 years. But even if they're not, it seems like there's always some other thing to follow, a batting title race, a home run championship race, an RBI championship. Yeah, Roger Clemens. George Brett is going for this one, but Frank White says, I'll take this one, George.
Frank White's won all the Gold Gloves. Let him take it.
George says, yeah, now I remember. 1 hit, 1 left. Boston will have only 1 more shot at it. The chicken caught something out there in the fountains. Looks like a little shark. Wow, nice catch. Here we go. Last of the 8th inning. Gerald Perry, the hitter, bluffs the bunt against Bolton and takes it in the dirt for ball 1. First place at stake for Boston. I mean, they'll have other chances to get first place. They don't have to do it tonight. They'll have 68 games left after tonight, but they'd like to leave Kansas City in first place. Toronto lost today. It's popped up foul right back toward us, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike. This is John Miller along with Joe Morgan. Joe, who will be heading to Cooperstown. Will you be coming back now to work with me the following week? Or are you staying up there with Ted Williams and Ty Cobb? And
I'm gonna stay up the first week. I'll miss 1 week, John, then I'll be back.
Oh, you are coming back.
Yeah.
Wow. Here's the 1-1 pitch. That's a high fly ball to center. Romine, a lot of room out there in this ballpark. And that is out #1. This is a very spacious ballpark.
John, what's the storyline?
Oh, what a question that is. Because it's time to take a look at the Budweiser storyline for tonight's game. And there it is. The Royals are ahead. Bolton has pitched extremely well, but Storm Davis was a little bit better for his 6 innings. And George Brett 2 for 3, including an RBI double. That double drove in the 2nd Kansas City run back in the 3rd inning, and that has them leading right now. And here is George Brett. Up to 296, not too bad. With a single and a double tonight. Strike on the outside. George Brett has talked publicly about his contract ending after next year, and that he might just hang him up after next year. Well, and one thing that seems to underlie all of that is that he still deep down has some problems with the contract that was given out to Mark Davis, and also the other contract to Storm Davis. And George Brett has been here a long time. We've discussed this earlier this year, but it didn't sit well with George.
I don't really think he wants to hang him up either. George Brett has over 2,600 hits now, and he has a chance to get 3,000. And I think he really wants to get 3,000. When I talked to him, he said he wanted to get 3,000 hits. And so, I mean, if he can continue to play and be happy, I'm sure that he will continue to play.
Brett says if the team doesn't win next year and I don't perform the way I feel I can, I'm not going to continue playing. In left field, a routine play for Greenwell, and Brett is retired, out number 2. But he also said, if something's done to make me want to stay, I'll stay. If nothing's done to make me want to stay, I won't. You can read between the lines on that one.
Yes, you can. We'll take a look at it. Watch his head. There's very little movement. Watch where he goes with his head on this pitch. See, he just kind of strides forward. Head stays on the same plane, and he hits that ball well in the left center field.
What if, I mean, obviously we'll never know, but what if George Brett, instead of playing all these years in Kansas City, where he's always hit well, this has been a good park for him, what if he'd played at Fenway Park all these years?
Well, I think he would have hit more home runs, first of all, and he probably would have hit for a little higher average.
I mean, that ball he just hit is a threat to be a double at Fenway.
Yeah, but let me take that back, because first of all, you have to remember George Brett plays on AstroTurf here, which helps a lot of ground balls go through the infield. In Boston, some of the balls that go through the infield would be caught. But by the same token, some of the fly balls he hits, like that one, would have been off the wall in left field. So it's maybe 6 one way, half dozen the other. You get more power from George, but you may lose some of the ground ball singles that go through this infield, because AstroTurf infields really help guys that hit the ball hard on the ground.
Tabler pops it up. All 4 infielders start after it, but Marty Barrett wants it, and he takes it. Well, that's 8 very strong innings from the veteran but yet young lefty Tom Bolton. 2 straight wonderful starts from him. Now let's see if Boston can come back and win it for him.
ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, brought to you by Bud Light. Everything else is just a light. By Thompson's, the first name in lasting protection. And by Midas and its dealers across the country. Nobody beats Midas. Nobody.
So here we go to the 9th inning. John Miller and Joe Morgan with you. Kansas City leading in a nail biter. It is 2-1. Many changes. Willie Wilson, the veteran, goes into play center field, which he has manned so capably for so many years. Moving from center over to left field is Jim Eisenreich, and moving from left field over to right field is Bill Pecota. The only man who left after all of that was Pat Tabler. A new pitcher is also in. Right-hander Jeff Montgomery. He was the closer for the second half of last year and has become the closer this year. 12 saves for Montgomery. The first man to face him, Brunansky. Boston needs 1 run to stay alive. This is the kind of ball game that Kansas City lost a lot of earlier this year. The kind of game Boston has been winning a lot of most of the year, but not lately. A low-scoring ball game. And a slider for a called strike. Now, last night, Kansas City won here 4-2. They won 5-0 Friday night. They lost 3-1 Friday night. So they're playing a lot of these real tight, low-scoring ball games with the Red Sox. Last night, Montgomery came on in the 9th inning, and he got the save. If the Royals can win this one, that will be 6 wins out of 8 games with Boston in a period of, 10 days. And the Boston bench, not a whole lot of life over there right now, Joe.
And the big difference you see in 1-run ball games, the difference between first division and second division, as they say.
Well, there's 1 gone. Brunansky 0 for 4, and he strikes out for the 2nd straight time.
Well, Montgomery threw a couple of good breaking balls there, and Brunansky couldn't handle him. He took the second strike on the breaking ball. See, this ball starts in the strike zone and breaks down and away. Good pitch from Montgomery.
Now here is Quintana. Strike, and it's 0-1. The Kansas City bullpen is very busy, even as Montgomery goes to work out there. Quintana 0 for 3, has not hit the ball out of the infield. The same holds true for a lot of the Boston hitters tonight. Here's a look at the bullpen now, as the Royals have the right-hander. That is Mel Stottlemyre Jr. And on the left-hander is Mark Davis warming up. Mel Stottlemyre just brought up from the Kansas City farm system. His brother Todd, a pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays. His father, of course, long-time excellent pitcher with the New York Yankees. That's ruled to swing for strike 3 to Quintana. Just like that, 2 men are gone.
He really has problems with the breaking ball away, or the pitch away. This pitch starts about the middle of the plate and breaks away, and he does go on the pitch. He does not check. So that ball starts in the middle. Look at it dive away. Now watch his back. See, he swung at it He takes a swing at it. And you'll see it better from here. That's a swing right there.
So this is it for Boston. 2 down. Here's Greenwell. Ball 1.
Excuse me, John. In the past, Greenwell might be the guy you want up there with your last swing. But this year he's only hit 4 home runs, so he has not been that dangerous in this situation.
1-1.
And on that swing there, he did not generate much bat speed, nor did he look like he was pulling the ball trying to get some power behind the swing. He looked like he was trying to slap a single to left field.
The outfield is playing in deep. That's pulled foul. So the count, 1 ball and 2 strikes, 2 down in the 9th. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. Right after the game, we'll go to the ESPN Sports Center. Full day of baseball to tell you about, and all of the other things going on all around the world of sports. Been a worldwide weekend of sports. We'll have it all for you on the Sports Center. Next Sunday, we'll be at Shea Stadium. We'll be talking to Mel Stottlemyre Sr. about his New York Mets pitching staff, which has really come on. We'll get a look at Darryl Strawberry, who's been setting the world on fire. And the Mets will be taking on the St. Louis Cardinals, who have won 4 in a row now.
And they also have a good second baseman there, Greg Jeffrey.
2-2. Mike Greenwell. Well, ordinarily, would a guy like Greenwell be up to with 2 down thinking home run?
I think you have to think of power, trying to pull the ball, hit the ball in the gap.
He hits it down the line, and it looks like he'll be held to a single by the new right fielder, Bill Pecota. So Greenwell with his 2nd straight hit.
I think what you want is to try to get a ball that you can drive. If you get ahead of the pitcher in the count 2-0, then you can take 1 shot at playing batting practice and trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark. But if you do not get ahead 2-0, then you just try to drive the ball up one of the gaps for an extra base hit so that you're at second base with the tying run. But he did the next best thing. He got on base anyway.
So Greenwell, anything you've been able to tell about the way he's been swinging tonight?
Yeah, he is not turning, meaning he's not opening his hips and rotating well on his back leg.
Could that be related to that
Well, I'm
ankle?
sure it is, but I'm sure it may not be the ankle bothering him so much now. It's just that he's gotten into a bad habit from it when it did start to bother him.
Good point.
The toughest thing from a hitter standpoint, if something hurts you and it bothers you and it causes you to alter your swing, it's very tough to get back to the position you were in before you injured yourself.
Any advice that you would pass on to how can he get out of those bad habits?
Well, I think he has to go look at the video and see to himself that he's not really turning. As you can see, he's wearing that brace on his foot. Anytime I was hitting or doing anything and I had a protection on, I knew that was hurt. So I only gave it maybe 80% from that standpoint.
1-0 the count, and Pena with a huge cut on an off-speed delivery. Wow.
See, Pena knows what to do. But he got ahead in the count 1-0, and he felt like he was going to get a pitch in the strike zone, and he's going to try to see if he can hit that wall in Fenway, even though we're in Kansas City. And that is a big league hack.
Pena hit only 4 home runs last year, and so far this year, Tony has hit 4 home runs again.
But the 4 last year were in a big ballpark, St. Louis. Boston is a little smaller, and most of the parks in the American League are smaller than St. Louis was.
Except this one.
Yeah, except this one. You're right.
Strike 2. This doesn't look like Montgomery tried to exploit that big swing a little bit.
Well, I think what you do, he's taken 2 big cuts. Now I think you'll see Tony Pena shorten up his swing and try to get a base hit. But he wanted to, give himself and his teammates a shot at trying to drive a ball in the gap, because if he hits one in the gap, hopefully Greenwell could score from first. But now that he has 2 strikes, I think you'll see him cut down on his swing.
And one of the problems for the Red Sox, too, that Greenwell is still at first. They just don't have much team speed.
Right. That is always going to, it has always been a problem for Boston.
I mean, he's the possible tying run, but he's not able to even attempt to steal here, although in years past when he was more healthy, he did steal some bases. Well, that slider misses. 2-2 the count.
But the Boston Ballpark Club is built for Fenway Park, because you build your team around your home park. And they do not have a lot of team speed.
And ironically, this year, they also are not showing a lot of team power.
Right. And that's what they have had in the past.
It'd be a deadly combination. Third baseman Kevin Seitzer is deep and hugging the foul line. Brett, the first baseman, is right on the bag with Greenwell. The outfield is very deep. Here's a look now at how they play. The sights are over there hugging the foul line. Jeltz and White are both toward the middle just a little bit. The 2-2 pitch. Got him swinging, and the Royals have won it. They have taken this series 3 games out of 4, and the Red Sox will head off to Milwaukee, now losers 12 times in their last 16 games.
Well, one thing about the Kansas City Royals, they have always been a second half ball club. They've always played better the second half than they did the first half. And as I mentioned earlier, though, Boston has, been pretty fortunate because Toronto has lost a lot of ball games lately too. But I don't expect Toronto to continue to lose, so Boston's going to have to get their act together.
And the Kansas City Royals are not out of last place just yet, but they're still only 4 games out of 3rd. They've got plenty of time to get up in those standings and look respectable.
If they can get up to 3rd, that'll be quite an accomplishment for them this year.
Next week, we'll see another ball club down in the standings, the Cardinals, but they go against the high-flying New York Mets and Darryl Strawberry, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific, and we should have a wild one at Shea Stadium. That's a heated rivalry regardless of the standings. Kansas City wins it 2-1. John Miller for Joe Morgan. Baseball tonight is next.